Okay. Thank you. So, now's the time. Get your diaries out, please save the date, because DevOps UK next year, look, who's had a good time? Who'd like to have a good time over 3 days next year? Okay. So the date for next year, 17 to 20 of June. So please dial it into your calendars now. Tell your boss you're taking the time off, and we'll send you information and tell you how to sort it out. I want to once again just say a few thank yous before we finish this thing off. So the program committee, now including Holly coming to, who missed out yesterday. So apologies, Holly, who's disappeared in disgust or something. But the program committee curated what I think was an outstanding conference, and I hope that you all took a huge amount out of it. So thank you to the program. And thank you to the guys in green, our own ambassador network, our volunteers. All the volunteers, can you just stand up? Thanks. Yay. And I don't want to keep laboring this, but these guys have been awesome. Yeah, and without them, we couldn't do it. And I just want to say a massive thank you to them, because they've been such an amazing part of an event. And sometimes I've been to conferences where the sponsors almost feel kind of segregated or distant or kind of like not included. And it hasn't felt like that at all. They've been integral to everything that we've managed to achieve for the last 2 days. So thanks to the sponsors as well. Yay. And now we come on to our closing keynote, the present, the future, and the next generation. And up first, Martijn Verburg. Oh, hang on, no, sorry, I've completely missed something out. Who's front and, not quite front and center, but just over here. If you played table football over the last couple of days, I just want to do a little prize giving very quickly, because it's awesome. It's had like such an amazing kind of vibe to it. So Michael, can you just pop up a second?
What a trophy.
This is an amazing trophy and weighs an absolute ton. So, who's the winner?
So, it's Public Penguin FC.
Public Penguin, where are you?
There we are.
Come on up and get it quickly. Well done, guys. So, no more false starts. Martijn Verburg.
Hey everyone. At least the table football had less controversy than FIFA is having at the moment, which is a good thing. Those of you who know me, I'm known as a Diabolical Developer. I always wear a silly hat. And in honor of tonight's game, I'm wearing a silly orange hat. So, the present. It's always at these conferences where you go in, you absorb about 20 hours of information, and it's like a steam train going through your head. And so what we're going to try and do here at this closing session is actually sort of do a bit of a retrospective for you agilists out there and cover off the things that you should really go home, take away, and start doing at your day job or your hobby immediately. Number 1, the Java SE track, which we might as well have just called the Java 8 track. Lambdas, 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 more lambdas. Who here is using Java 8 today? Okay. Everybody else, start using it tomorrow. Get it into your CI server as a matrix build. Start using Java 8. The developer productivity and the underlying JVM enhancements will absolutely blow you away. Okay, this isn't the boring little Java 7-point release that we had previously. This is an absolute game changer. So as Java developers, you really need to jump on it. JVM languages. Now I'm going to be controversial here. I'm actually going to say that a little bit of the love story and a little bit of the romance we've had with JVM languages is a little bit over. And there was a couple of talks at the conference here yesterday and today which covered this very fact. Scala, Groovy, Clojure are all languages now that have been here long enough that developers are starting to see what it's like to really maintain them, to build large enterprise applications with them. And yes, there are still certain problem domains that these languages can solve for you better than Java. Arguably, a lot of the functional idioms are still better in these other languages, even in Java 8. But a few people are starting to lose their way with it, so it'll be interesting to see where it goes in the future. So it's not all rosy. Server-side Java. It's time to get cool again, like this guy. Yeah. This is Antonio in 19... It's amazing what you can find on the internet. Overwhelming message from the conference, especially from our good sponsors Oracle. Please call it Java EE going forwards. There's been a huge effort to get the naming and the branding right. The overwhelming thing I've taken away, though, is that when I used to work with Java EE or J2EE back in the day, it just sucked, right? Nobody liked using it. You had to write 5 interfaces to get a single bean to save to a database. It was complete nonsense. That world has gone. We are now in a much, much happier place, especially with Java EE 7. Everything is simple, annotation-based, no more crappy XML everywhere, and it's actually built for the modern web, right? You've got WebSockets, you've got asynchronous messaging, you've got transactions right from when you get a web request all the way down to your persistence layer. It actually just works out of the box. So if you were scarred for life like I was, okay, you can get your little healing potion in Java EE 7 and go back and try and give it a good go again. Web and HTML5. The thing I've taken away from the conference this year, do everything lazy. Okay? Don't go and load up your monolithic JavaScript application all up front in one go and have your users walk away bored because the loading time is too long. Okay? Only load the little bits that you need to begin with, and then load the rest if the user asks for it. Responsive is the other key takeaway. You really only want to have one set of source code when you're coding your web and HTML5 apps. Try and make the CSS, the JavaScript, and the layout responsive so that everybody in their 5 million Android devices can actually see your app properly. The other big takeaway, winter is coming. Does anybody remember fondly the Java web framework wars of the mid-90s and 2000s? Yeah, well, guess what's happening in JavaScript land? You now have AngularJS, Ember, you have SAP's new offering, which looked really cool, so on and so forth. So now you as developers are going to have this wide range of choice, and it's going to be quite difficult to decide who's going to be the winner. My advice, go away and prototype something difficult in each of the frameworks, pick what works best for your team. On to mobile, no more web applications. And the other big takeaway is, if you thought it was cool to like hack up a little friendly user interface as a developer, you know, just a little frame because it's the server-side stuff that matters, your users don't care. Your users want pretty first. They almost want pretty and usability over functionality. So the world is now used to these beautiful mobile applications on tablet devices and mobile devices. So if you're starting a new company or if your company is thinking of building mobile apps, hire a UX person, hire a graphics designer. If you are being an ostrich and putting your head in the sand about mobile, just look at this chart. Mobile web traffic is going to overtake desktop traffic if it hasn't already done so today. So as Java developers, you're no longer coding, you know, for a boring Swing application or a browser-based desktop application. You're having to code for a massive array of mobile devices out there. It's a very different way of thinking, and you need to start thinking about that now. Backing up the whole mobile story is cloud and big data. That cat there represents cloud to me, because it's a ball of fluff without any real meaning. That's what marketing departments like to think cloud is. Cloud environments are horribly different to the normal data centers and Java enterprise environments that you're used to developing in, where you've got a big piece of iron, or at least a big piece of virtualized server, lots of RAM, lots of hard disk, probably a fiber pipe between you and the other servers in the same data center. In the cloud, you're on the open internet, with all of the failings, Amazon going down every second day, so on and so forth. You have to code for a very different paradigm. Things are not reliable, and things are very resource constrained. When you buy one of those little Amazon nodes, you might get half a gig of RAM if you're lucky, unless your boss gives you his massive platinum credit card. You have to think differently. So if you're used to writing these request response style applications, you know, with struts 2 or these old styles of developing applications, you have to throw that thinking out of the window. You have to think lightweight services that can scale horizontally. You have to think about asynchronous, so push and pull. It's no longer a case of a user clicks on a button and you send a response. Sometimes you have to send a response to the user before they've even clicked the button, especially if you're serving ads, which is what we all seem to be doing these days. The second war that is brewing is the IaaS-PaaS wars of 2015. Every single major technology vendor out there today wants you to use their PaaS. Okay? You've got Cloud Foundry, IBM's Bluemix, Oracle's Public Cloud, JElastic, OpenShift is, I guess, more of an IaaS type play, but there's just so many of them to choose from. And you as developers and architects are going to have to be very careful to not lock yourselves and your businesses into a PaaS that's going to disappear tomorrow. So it's going to be difficult times. The takeaway for architecture and security from this conference is that there are no architects anymore. Okay? All developers are architects, and all architects are developers. If you have any enterprise architects in your organization that write on whiteboards and send out Word documents, fire them immediately. I'm serious. Unless they code, fire them immediately. And vice versa. If you are a developer and you don't actually think about the environment you are developing on, you're a little bit scared of drawing up a simple diagram on a whiteboard, rethink your career. Security. We've had massive issues this year with things like Heartbleed, and I think if we'd taken the same rigor we do now with test-driven development and static code analysis, for example, we wouldn't be in the place where the entire internet and every application we build is unsecure. So we as a community all have to start taking responsibility for security and building it right in from the start of the development lifecycle. Methodology. The great thing I have seen at this conference, and I'm so pleased, is that the Church of Agile is finally dying. I think a few of us were single-handedly trying to put the torch to it last year, but the water bucket brigade of the Scrum Masters kept just putting the flames out. But finally, common sense has come to the fore. Hooray. Automating everything is actually the next great enabler for development teams. So if you love Ruby or if you hate Ruby, it doesn't matter. You're going to be coding Ruby for the next couple of years. Chef and Puppet is the way forward. The future. We had flying things.
All right, that's it. Enough. Now for something completely different. Okay. Can I get my speaker slides? Oh, yes, I can. I can probably do it without, but... oh, I'm sorry. It was community. All right. Do you want to say something about community? All right. Right. Ah. Space. Thank you. All right, so I'm going to talk about not the near future, but the slightly further out future. I, in particular, love this. I love the idea that people in the past had these visions of what we would be doing in the future, and they're all kind of like this, and they're really cool. It didn't really turn out like that. So this is a folly in the offing to start, just to start with. We're not very good at predicting the future unless we can actually create it. If you look at science fiction, not many people predicted an internet. I suppose you could argue that William Gibson with Neuromancer came pretty close to something like cyberspace before there really was, but his view was like a world that, with 3D and Second Life and stuff like that. I don't think anybody would have guessed it would all be about e-commerce and stuff like that. But back then. So let's take a look at where we were about 20 years ago. This was Amazon, and this was Yahoo 20 years ago. These were delivered over 2,800 modems, maybe 56K if you were really on the bleeding edge of stuff. Another thing to look at is my first job. And I'm actually in a room now where at least a percentage of people will have heard of this and know what I'm talking about, was with Ordnance Survey in Southampton, the mapping agency in the UK. And they mapped digitally the entirety of the UK down to 20 centimeters accuracy, pretty much everything, even hedgerows and stuff like that, using 2,800 modems to send out information to field offices overnight because it was cheaper, and then the surveyors would go out, draw stuff on the diagrams, or diagram up the changes, coming back in, digitize them, and then send them up the next day. And a little story here I found amusing was when I got there, I found out the name of this system was Digital Field Update System, or DFUS for short, which I found amusingly close to doofus. And they really didn't watch Cheers or anything, the guys that I worked with, so they had no idea what I was laughing at when they told me that. But anyway, yes, so looking at this, where are we now? Well, this is more like what we work with these days. And I think to some degree, I have to say, I think we've become a little bit lazy. Okay, I hear people all the time saying, I need more power. I need more bandwidth. 5 gigs is not enough. Heaven knows, I program Scala. 8 gigs is barely enough to compile a lot of Scala programs that I work on. We're all guilty of it. The whole thing, the grid computing, everything like that, this is great for big data. And big data, largely, I think, barring a bunch of details, we've got a pretty good handle on that right now. But again, I'm going to look back just a little bit further now to the Apollo missions, okay? Apollo missions, they landed on the moon, okay? Just let that sink in for a second. They landed on the moon using this. It had 64K of memory. It ran at about 0.04 megahertz. Just think about that for a minute. I calculate, a quick back of the envelope calculation, my phone, each core has 3,600 times the power that this had. 2 of these landed that thing, Saturn V, actually landed the lander, got the Saturn V up and landed the lander on the moon. The whole of the computing infrastructure that the Houston-based team used is still less power than I carry in my pocket on my phone right now. So clearly, you can do quite a lot with not a lot. And why am I interested in all this? Well, funny you should ask. And partly this is because I was asked to try and thread together big data and the Internet of Things when I was asked to talk here today. And I'm like, crikey, how do I do that? And the answer actually became quite clear after a little while. So, about 15 years ago, I bought a bunch of these things fairly cheaply on the internet. They're X10 modules, and I put them all over my house. And I connected all my lights into them, rewired. I got quite good at electrical wiring. I rewired all my light switches and everything like that. And I had a little thing called a firecracker module that I plugged into a computer. Pretty soon I had, after a lot of debugging, many, many man-hours spent debugging things, I got a fairly good home automation setup. I was able to put the system in movie mode, and when I wanted to watch a movie, all the lights would dim, and stuff would happen, and it was all really cool. And the thing about those X10 modules is they really don't do very much. They're pretty simple. They have a little couple of dials on them that give you an address, and they communicate either over RF or power line. They don't have any memory in them. They just do stuff, and you kind of send commands to them, and they dim or come back up again. Problem is, they don't work very well these days for all sorts of reasons. My house in California doesn't like these things. What do you call them? The compact fluorescents or the LED lights don't work with them properly. The lamp modules need a little bit of current going through all the time, and it just doesn't work unless you have like incandescent bulbs and stuff. So that's all gone. What I'm looking at instead is I've started messing around, like many people have, with Raspberry Pi. And Raspberry Pi was really interesting. When it was first talked about, David Brabham, I think it was, the elite guy, came up with the idea. And I listened to that and I thought, what the hell am I going to do with something that weak, that incapable? What is anybody going to do with that? And, we're all getting faster and bigger computers and stuff. People have done unbelievable things with Raspberry Pi and the Arduino, okay? Tons of stuff. If you want to see things that are diverging, really interestingly, if you look at the $1,500 Google Glass, I'm not bashing Google here, $1,500 Google Glass, and look at the things people have done with that. There's some pretty interesting things. Then you look at what people are doing with a $35 or £35 Raspberry Pi. The amount of diversity. Clearly, the power, the sophistication of the device is no limit. In fact, it seems to be inverse proportional to the kind of things that people are doing with these. People will chuck these anywhere, because if it blows up, you go and get another one for not too much money. Okay, particularly the Arduinos, those things blow up all the time. So, usually because you just put mains voltage into them or something accidentally when you were, soldered the wrong wire in or something like that. But there's a problem with these. They do too much. They are too powerful, and they're too expensive, and they're too damn big, and they suck too much power, I think. So let's take this a bit further. You got your Google Glass, you got things like the Nest, which again, very interesting from a first world perspective, but going the wrong way, really. It's basically a thermistor and a switch, but it costs $250 in the States. I'd need 2 of those in my house because I have dual zone heating. That's a lot of money. I'm never going to make it back. Not really too worried about that, but as will become clear in a minute, I'm really about the low cost, the low power, and the low bandwidth. So I just recently picked up one of these as well at home. This is starting to get more interesting. Raspberry Pi has video and all sorts of things connected to it. This is a pogo plug. It has a board, a little bit of memory, and 4 USB slots on it, and that's pretty much it. And it can run Linux. So you buy these, that you can actually get them about $17 on Amazon right now. Stick a new version of Linux on there and do all sorts of stuff. And it's all USB commodity stuff. I can take a $7 sound card and stick it in there, and I've got sound. I've actually got these things all over the house now. They're synced up, they play sound. It's like a Sonos that I put together myself for a fraction of the cost, unless you take into account my consulting rate, in which case I would have been better off buying the Sonos for the number of hours I've put into this. But that's not the point. That's not the point at all. So, what can we do? How low can we go? So let's have a think about things. I had to have a Venn diagram in here, right? Venn diagrams are cool. So I did some brainstorming. I'm sure I've missed a bunch. But right here in the middle, I think, is where most of us are right now. We've got things like TVs and Chromecasts and Blu-ray players. The squeeze box is that, my own little squeeze box in there. They're all at home. They're all hooked in. They're all connected to Wi-Fi. And they all talk to one another and do cool stuff. Then I got things that I want to do, like my lights, my fridge, alarm, garage door. Number of times I get to the end of the road. Did I close the garage door? Turn around, drive back, make sure I close the garage door, drive off again. Really sick of doing that. So, that's high on my priority list right there. These things at least stay at home. Over here I've got things that actually have some connectivity, like Dottie is my dog. She has, talk about your first world situation, she has a fitness tracker. Our dog has a fitness tracker. Okay, yes, I know how ridiculous that sounds. But now Dottie is Wi-Fi enabled, okay? So, but I want to get that. I want to get that information, okay? My Kindle, all that stuff. And then I've got all this other stuff out here. Things like I'm wearing a wristwatch, right? Quite a lot of technology. My mountain bike, wallet, Fitbit, road bike, credit cards, me and Jackie, they're all out here, and we're not Wi-Fi enabled. We're not stuck at home, okay? Internet of Things is not going to be about things that are Wi-Fi enabled. It's not going to be about things that are stuck at home. So, the thing I'm kind of aiming up to here is we need to go really low cost. And what I just showed you, landing on the moon and, mapping the entire UK, is you can do a lot with a little, and we need to start thinking about that, right? I don't want these things to have great big batteries on them. I want them to give a little bit of trickle of data, maybe every hour or so even. Just send a few packets up, get them together. So, you know, now we're sitting here, we're privileged, we're well off. Why am I so concerned about the cost? Why am I so concerned about the power and stuff like that? Why the hell should anybody care about my first world problems? Well, here's the reason. We're in a position to drive the cost down on these devices. We can develop them and test them in a world where, frankly, it doesn't really matter. If I leave my garage door open, probably one of my neighbors is going to come by and say, oh, you didn't mean to do that, and close it for me, okay? Not a problem. But if we can develop something that works, it could make a difference where it really matters in developing countries. Okay, now, developing countries have good network coverage, not fast network coverage. It's certainly not fast everywhere. Slow networks penetrate better. They cover more area. So GPRS, for example, you've got great coverage. In places, in these countries, you're going to have 4G, okay, just like we do all over the place. But not everywhere, and chances are where you're growing crops and stuff like that, it's not going to have 4G. So we need to start thinking about how can we connect these devices into, and I'm going to term a phrase here, I don't know if it'll catch on. Forget the internet, now it's about the ubiquinet. Okay, we're going to create a ubiquitous network of all these things. They need some way to communicate. So let's go back. Everybody's favorite defunct company, Sun, famously said, the network is the computer. Okay, we look at where we are now. We've got, this is the UK, this is the US coverage. Pretty good coverage if you count, you know, this is counting anything that will carry a signal, basically. There's a few places in the US still don't have it. I think it's actually illegal in Utah or something, but no, I'm kidding. American joke. But here's the thing, okay? Let's say we can get a bunch of these low-power consumption devices onto the network. What are the problems we're going to face? Well, number one, recently, is going to be security, okay? I want to see what Dottie's doing. I don't believe the NSA has any real reason to know what my dog is doing right now. It's not that I don't exactly trust them, but it's that they just don't need to know that stuff, okay? So we're going to need some kind of, someone's got to think about, somebody should do something. Somebody's got to think about a real, easy, ubiquitous VPN to go with our ubiquitous Ubiquinet. IPv6 can probably do a lot of this. But it's got to be easy, it's got to be universal, it's got to be something you take a little tiny Arduino-based whatever, about the size of a badge. I actually had one as a prop. So something like this, get straight on the network. Maybe it has a 2D barcode or an NFC tag. You get your phone out, you go take a picture of it or scan it. It says, do you want to add this to your private network? You say, yes. Next it says, what am I? And you say, well, funny you should mention that. You're being connected to a fridge, or you're being connected to my dog. And it goes out and it looks for a personality. This is my kind of thinking at this point. I'm sure that the future will be nothing like this, but goes out, looks for a personality, downloads the dog driver, or the fridge driver. And that's what it becomes. And it starts sending a few packets of information. Maybe the fridge says, I'm running, or I'm not running. And it all comes together in this VPN, probably in some kind of a hub at home, and then I choose what I want to share with the internet. Another thing that was really interesting to me is a lot of houses have these on now, smart meters. Did you know these things are so sensitive and so accurate, they can tell specifically when your television is turned on, or your fridge, okay? It's a certain current fingerprint that they have, and once it learns it, if you can get that data, you can use it. So we need to start taking control of the data we have as well. I thought that was pretty interesting. That came from a friend of mine who works for a company called NinjaBox, and he's like, yeah, all the data's right there. We can tell what's running in your house and what isn't. And I'm like, yikes. We definitely don't want the NSA knowing that. So the other problems we face, this is pretty much what you deal with when you're working on an Internet of Things right now. That's great for us, not so good for, you know, pretty much everybody else in the world who's not a slavering geek that spends, you know, 2 o'clock in the morning trying to get things working. rest of the world has decided if this, then that is a really good idea, and I think we're going to need to close that gap a bit as well. So, you know, if this, then that, problem there, public again. But I can see with all of this, maybe somebody comes up with a more private, enclosed, VPN-based, but equally usable, okay, my dog has just come down the street, unlock the secure dog flap so she can get back in. I don't know, something like that. Why my dog is out walking herself I'll leave that up to your imagination, but you get the idea. So, you know, there's a whole bunch of stuff there, and that is kind of where I'm going to leave it for now. Obviously, I go back to this slide to remind you that I probably have about as much, success as predicting the future as this artist did, only with, he at least could, or she at least could draw, whereas I'm pretty incapable of that. But anyway, I'll hand off.
Yeah, so, I mean, you talked about... So you talked about several things that are relevant to us. Now, how are we going to enable all these things? Who's going to write programs for us for all this? Who's going to build all these things for us? So we're here to talk about, like, how do we enable the next generation of developers? And I don't really mean, you know, who are like coming out of college now. I really mean the next gen. So that's what we're going to talk about. So to put a perspective, you know, if you look at it, for example, now, I don't know how many of you recall these devices. You know, some of these are really old. So how many of you recall any of the device? Oh, wow, we are really old, actually. This is a really old audience. So I think we are rightly, in that case, talking about the next gen. So this keynote is very relevant in that case. I mean, look at these devices. Commodore 64, you know, VCR. I think 10 or 15 years ago, me and my wife were talking, hey, you know, we need to watch our video cassette of the wedding. Oh, let's find where the VCR is. Oh, we have one back in the garage. So these are really legacy devices. Look at the first phone right here. You know, it's bigger than probably an Apollo itself. You know, you got to hold it like this. And I still remember when we got one of these phones, you know, in our company, the guy would just walk around proudly with his phone like this. Yeah, I got a phone. Because he wants to show off everybody. And now what do? This is what our phone is. We just put it in the back pocket right there. So let's see, you know, how things have changed.
Yeah. So if we're looking at devices today, well, we have increased capacity. But in the meantime, we have reduced size and we have reduced price. For example, you can buy Raspberry Pi for £30. And it's pretty cool because low prices make technologies more affordable, and it's very important. Well, you were talking about those printers. You know, it wasn't, everybody wasn't having a printer at home. Now, everybody can make his own printer, 3D printer. You know, you just have to go to a fab lab and ask for some help, and you will have something like that. And you will be able to print almost everything, from food to houses, including artificial limbs. That's very cool. And yes, as you said, now our cell phone fits in our pocket, and as Dick said, that they are much more powerful than Apollo spacecraft was. And, well, it's very important because, you know, we are not going to the moon anymore, but we are playing to Flappy Birds and things like that, so we need power. But, in fact, it's not only technology that has changed. It's also the way we are consuming it. Our laptop and smartphones and tablets have replaced a lot of devices. We are watching movies on them, we are listening music on them, and we are playing on them. And it has even replaced something which was not a device, a paper map. You know? I don't know, but I remember when I was young, and we were going on holidays with my parents, and they were having lots of paper maps in the car, you know, a big one with all the country, etc. And, well, I don't even remember the last time I used paper map.
Now, we were watching a video on the YouTube, and it says they presented a rotary phone to kids, who are like young, like 5 to 8 years of age. They showed them a rotary phone, and they said, take a look at it and tell us what it is. They said, oh, I think it's an old phone. Why do you think it's an old phone? Because my mom uses it. okay? How do you text from it? I don't know. Maybe press like this. Well, this is a rotary phone, so maybe I circle it 3 times, that's A, circle it 4 times, that's 5. How do you start dialing it? So the kids today, they don't know the concept of how fast the technology is evolving. And I'm sure this gave me a good laugh first time. Oh, cool. I mean, why the hell is icon of save is still the 3.5-inch floppy drive? I mean, I have probably one, and I can show it to my son as a legacy. Yeah, I'm proud of using this in my college. But that's about it. That's where the buck stop right now. So think about the pace with which the technology is evolving. So there is definitely a need for enabling more and more developers, and that is going to be our next generation.
And if we try to imagine what will be devices 30 years from now, well, it's quite difficult. Some of our dreams have become true. We have self-driving car, we have Google Glass, we have gesture control, nanotechnology. Okay, great. I'm still waiting for teleportation, by the way. And, well, it's almost impossible to predict what is coming. It's probably things we haven't even thought about yet.
See, the funny thing is because we were thinking what images to put here, and then we thought any image that we put here is possibly going to be wrong. But these are the kind of things that we're still waiting for, and these were predicted 30 years ago. So think about the pace with which the technology is evolving and how rapidly it needs to evolve to get us here.
And, okay, how developers were seen 30 years ago? Well, it's not very brilliant, isn't it? There were men. Okay, sorry, Grace Hopper, it's only men. They were seen as pretty asocial. There were some fancy clothes. And they were doing some kind of obscure and boring job, Don't really know what they were doing. They were in their home, and, well, doesn't look like very interesting.
Geek, nerd.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But something really, really important happened. Google, Apple, Facebook, Twitter. Now, we are cool.
And actually, it doesn't stop there. We are cool. Yes, thank you for that, by the way. But what's important is, what's our next generation of developers look like? That's what they look like. That's what is inspiring to us. That's what should be inspirational for all of us, actually. That's how we see our next generation of developers.
Exactly.
Now, another perspective, if we can put for you, for example, what were the languages that we were seeing 30 years ago? I mean, in my college, I used to do Fortran, Pascal, those kind of languages. My sister, who was about 10 years elder to me, she used to do punch cards. I mean, how many of you have used punch cards at all? See, there you go. I can see the hands going down and the white hairs going up. Natural, isn't it? So, again, trying to emphasize the pace of technology over here. And if you take a look at the languages today,
well, it's quite impossible to list them all here. There are tons of languages today. But perhaps the most important is that one, Scratch. Some of you may not know Scratch, so to present it very quickly, it's a complete development environment. And, we have these graphical blocks. We're adding them to each other, and we create games or animation or whatever we want. And kids really love that. But now, just a quick moment. Let's have a look at security and privacy. Well, not everything is cool in all this evolution. And if you're looking at people around you and talking to them about Edward Snowden or the NSA, well, and if you are talking about prison, they will probably respond you, well, I don't care, I have nothing to hide. That's not the point. This movie, Minority Report, is supposed to take place 40 years from now. We already have facial recognition, we have big data. In fact, we already know what everybody is doing at every moment, even your dog. So this is going to happen very quickly, just a matter of time. but it will not take 40 years. And how can we expect children to face those new challenges that are coming with these new technologies if they don't know that what a computer is, and that they can just program it? You know, it's just a tool.
So, I mean, before we share the big thing that we are doing, with Devoxx is doing as such, let me share you some of the local initiatives. So, for example, there is Coder Club, which is a program in the UK. You know, it runs as an after-school program. They teach kids, you know, how to program, technology, and all those things. Similarly, there is Coder Dojo. Again, the focus over there is teaching kids, you know, how should you build a cool project, and the focus over there is teaching. There is Young Rewired State. Over there, it's more targeted towards teenagers. You know, how do you do a mentoring program? This is how you can teach other teenagers and encourage them. But as you realize, the common theme among each of these programs is more about teaching. But then at Devoxx, we have something what we call as Devoxx for Kids.
Yeah, exactly. And at Devoxx for Kids, our goal is not to teach. It's to promote computer programming, robotics, engineering, but in a fun way. You know, we take everything that's funny in technology, and we are doing one-day workshops and having fun. That's the most important part.
I think the sparkle that you see in a kid's eye when they do a particular workshop, that to us is priceless. Fun is the most important part to us. So just to kind of highlight, you know, Devoxx for Kids is a global event. You know, I mean, it's literally a global phenomena. So this is, you can go to devoxxforkids.org on our website, get all the details over there. But there are like 36 teams that exist today, you know, literally all over the world. You know, we wish to go to Antarctica someday, maybe. You know, who knows, penguins would be interested in this. But there are discussions, and it's not just us, you know, who are doing it. We are very well connected in the community. I think we are very well connected in the technology industry. So we're trying to bring that down to the next generation of developers. And we are actually working with several other teams, not just Devoxx for Kids, kind of make it really a community feeling where we work with them and we share our material with them and we encourage them to participate with us.
Yeah, so as you were saying, we are now 16 teams. We are present in Europe, of course, because it was born in Belgium. We are present in North America, South America, even in Asia, and we hope soon in Africa.
Well, actually, in Africa, we are launching soon.
Yeah.
Well, the previous slide showed you the bunch of logos, which are Devoxx for Kids logo in all of these different countries. But this is a lot more visual representation. Here it shows, you know, which are all the countries which are actively participating and driving for it. So if your flag is not here, we want you to go back with one lesson. Go back and say why my flag is not up here. We want your flag up here on this map next time.
Let's go.
Okay. Oh, there you go. Okay. Just looking over there. Okay. So now these are the pictures of workshops that we have. Oh, we jumped one slide too ahead.
Yeah.
Now we're going to go back.
Yeah.
Are we in the right slide now? Okay.
Doesn't really like.
Oh, no, go back one more.
Yeah.
One more. Go back.
Yeah.
Back. Okay, hold on.
There's time lapse between.
There you go. All right, we can do that now. All right, so what you see is the pictures from different Devoxx for Kids workshops that we have done all over the world. So here you see pictures, for example, from India. Okay.
Okay.
All right, well, we saw pictures from India, Poland, beautiful, colorful kids, you know, wearing all different colors of T-shirts. We have done several workshops in the US. To me, particularly, since I drive the US chapter, the image that would have shown in the corner over here. We have done several workshops, and the one that I particularly like is that we did in partnership with Intel in the Santa Clara office. There were 35 girls, only exclusively girls. So we're not just reaching out to boys and girls, but we're explicitly reaching out to communities that we want to encourage and make them participate over here.
Yeah. And here you have other pictures of Belgium and France and Brazil with Vinicius and Yara. We are doing a really great job with workshop about the Internet of Things. And well, in Paris, we have just tested something which was very funny. We were attending kids from 5 to 15 years old. So we have made different workshops for all ages, from 5 to 8, 8 to 10, and 10 to 15. It was really funny.
Now, these are some of the workshops that we have done. So you can see, these are only some of them. So you can start from like now, you can look at Scratch, you can look at Alice, you can look at Greenfoot. These are basic programming fundamentals. We do programming language workshops like Java, Python, and there are several others that are in the offing as well. And we do fun workshops like Raspberry Pis, Arduinos, Minecraft, and that's been a big hit for us.
Yeah. And Atya, could you come in, please? I would like to ask you some questions. So, I would like to know, how have you begun to program?
So one day I was playing Minecraft and it just stopped working. So I went to my dad and I told him my jar file is broken. And then he asked me, how do you know what a jar file is? So I told him how Minecraft runs on Java and how it just wasn't working anymore. So he said, if I teach you about Java and you teach me about the game, then we can both learn a lot. So it just kind of started from there.
And what's your role in the DevOps for Kids USA team?
Well, I made all the material for the Minecraft modding workshops, and I also go around in the US helping running workshops.
And what did you prefer in programming? What did you prefer in programming?
I've done a few programming languages like Java and JavaScript and Scratch and other things, but I'm just more used to Java because I've done that a lot more than any of the other ones.
Yeah, you're right. Thank you very much.
Okay. Now, that's inspiring for us. That's what we want to do. So as a matter of fact, in the US, we're running an iPhone game development workshop. And we just always ask for volunteers. Somebody reached out to us, hey, you know what? We want to reach out to a wider set of kids. So we're doing an iPhone development workshop in the US. So what was inspiring really was this kid, he just signed up to our meetup, and he sent me a mail. Hey, my name is so. I'm 13 years old. I've built 2 iPhone apps. How many of you have built an iPhone app and published it on the iTunes? See, 5, 6 hands. This guy is 13 years old. He's built 2 iPhone apps, and he wants to help coordinate the iPhone game development workshop. That's the kind of inspiration we love to see in the kids, And again, the important part, as we were saying earlier, is to have fun. If they're having fun, they're going to come back to you. Don't focus on the teaching aspect of it. Focus on them having fun so that they get hooked onto it. I mean, Minecraft, for example. Don't tell them I'm teaching you Java programming. Tell them I'm just going to give you a bigger TNT explosion. Oh, by the way, what you did in the background was Java programming. They're going to come back to you.
So from now, we have made a lot of workshops all around the world, and what is very interesting is that we were having... Oh,
we're jumping ahead.
No. No. Okay. And there was almost 30% of girls during these workshops. And it's very interesting because it's much, much more than in industry at the moment. Well, in fact, it's just much, much more than here at the moment. And, well, that's pretty sad, but it's much more than in high school. And, it's really the point that matters.
Right, we really want to encourage people at all different levels, not just middle schoolers, high schoolers, because the more we put in the funnel, hopefully more will start showing up in the later pipeline as well. That's the important part.
Exactly.
Now, Home Depot is a home improvement store in the US. It's just like B&Q here locally. And a few years ago, their tagline used to be, you can do it, we can help. And that just struck me right away. You know what? That actually makes sense because eventually, what we are trying to do is kids can do it, and DevOps for kids can help. So what are the different ways by which kids can do it and how we can help? All right. So first of all, as I said earlier, if your flag is not up there, if you are from a country whose flag was not up there, I want you to go back, open up a local DevOps for Kids chapter. That is sort of one of the biggest things that you can do getting out of the keynote.
You can also host an event. You know, we are always looking to place where we can make the workshops, and people are very enthusiastic. So school, just ask to schools or service companies, and probably they can lend you their office for one day.
And if there is an event running in your country or in your neighborhood already, say, you know what, I know JavaScript, I'm going to create a workshop for you. Or say, I'm just going to be a volunteer, I'm going to help you with the logistics. Just say, I'm going to help you with the sponsorship part of it. There are a variety of ways. So if you go to devoxforkids.org, say help-us, if you go to that link, it's right on the top itself, it tells you exactly the different ways by which you can help us.
And you can spread the word. You can help them by talking about DevOps for Kids at your children's school, at your family, at your friends, and more especially, talk about DevOps for Kids to people who are not in technology, because we have to touch them. We can just ignore them, you know?
And in terms of sponsorship, it's not just dollars. I mean, yes, of course, dollars help. You know, dollars help anywhere. But there are different ways by which you can sponsor. You can say, you know, I got extra hardware that is sitting back in my office. I'm going to donate that hardware. Because we are working with several underprivileged communities back in the Bay Area and other parts of the world as well, where we can give them those laptops because these kids, they don't know what computer look like. So then you work with them on sort of a year, on a monthly basis or a quarterly basis. You introduce them to the computer, you teach them basic programming concepts, and hopefully in a year or so they graduate out of it where they can actually keep that computer. So think about it, if you have any spare laptops or hardware sitting over there and how we can leverage them. Hardware, you know, I mean, swag, there are multiple ways by which we can help.
Yeah.
So what we would like to share is tomorrow, for example, we have a workshop event that is going on in UK. It's at Shoreditch Hall. We're going to start at 9 o'clock in the morning, and we run pretty much all day. Variety of workshops, you know, we got Minecraft modding, we got Now, we got Scratch, we got Green Food, a whole variety of workshops that are happening. So if you have not registered, we highly encourage you to register. It's not too late. We have a very high instructor to kid ratio, so we want it to be a fun experience. That's the most important part for us. And with that, we'll invite Dan up here.
Well, I think as a committee, we really wanted to get across to DevOxians, not just provide you with information about what's going on now. I mean, we're all looped into what's coming up, and there's the Adopt a JDK project that goes on with the LJC, which I know a bunch of you are involved with. But we need to be prepared for what's coming. And we asked you at the beginning to give us some questions. So if I leave you on the stage,
yeah.
I shall read a few. So one of the interesting questions that first popped up was, will there still be a desktop?
Yeah, I think so. I want my desktop to be my desktop and have the whole, you know, table grabby interface thing so that I can control my entire world and see where my dog is.
I want a wall top. I want my entire wall to be a screen. And then I can manipulate it, you know, with some sort of, not a physical keyboard, but a virtual keyboard and mouse and stuff. That's what I want. So build it, please, somebody.
Yeah, I think the definition of desktop itself will evolve. You know, it may not be really that iron box really that you see. And as you're saying, you know, I want that kind of a screen. I just say, you know what, here's my keyboard. Now I can type on it. Now just keyboard disappear. Now the screen comes away. It's an all collapsible.
Yeah, I think even Perl will look nice on a big screen like that.
Yeah.
So how about languages? Now that we've got Swift and other languages coming out with many more features than Java, is Java just getting too far behind to catch up?
Go on, Scala boy.
Oh, I was pleasantly surprised to do the first Java programming that I've done in about 5 years in the run-up to the Monads talk I did to try out the Java 8 Lambdas, and I think they've done a great job at integrating it. Certainly breathed new life. I think that there will always be other languages to go and explore, and if you're curious, you certainly can't hurt yourself by doing so. If Java 8 and the pause there taught you anything, it's that I was able to come back in having done 5 years in Scala and start using Java 8 Lambdas immediately, knowing exactly how they work and everything like that. So, stretch yourself with new languages and try them out. But yeah, I think Java will be going for some time yet.
Yeah, I think it's going to be the workhorse that we'll still be using in 15 years' time. And for specialist things or to be on the bleeding edge, yeah, we will try new languages, and some will be successful and some not. But Java will take the best of those worlds, I think.
I think one of the things that I want to say is people generally confuse between Java, the language, and the platform. So platform is definitely the most robust platform in that sense. If you think about all the new languages, they end up running pretty much on JVM and a lot more efficiently. So that's definitely going to be relevant. And Java, as we have seen, has evolved like with lambdas and features like that. Just because it's a standard, it's going to take a little bit longer to evolve. But yes, it is evolving. So I think it's going to be very much relevant.
Actually, to play devil's advocate, Audrey. It's not good for kids, though, is it? I mean, Java or any sort of text-based programming language is a bit rubbish, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a little bit difficult, when they are doing Greenfoot, for example, and, well, you have to have a result very quickly, or they will be boring, So it's a little bit difficult to learn as first language, but I think it has its place.
So to close up this section, so as a developer, how do I stay relevant and help the people around me, help with my career? What should I be doing for the next 5, 10 years?
So, me again? Oh, okay. So I think, and I actually failed to say this during my thing, is start thinking small, first of all. Small is the new big. And if it wasn't clear, one of the things the Ubiquinet is going to do is it's going to generate a ton of data. And we're going to have to start learning to deal with that. And it's not going to work with stuff like MapReduce, because this data is going to be all over the place. My fridge is not going to send out the same information as my dog. I'm going to have to figure out how to deal with that. Okay? That's a problem we haven't dealt with yet. So I think we're going to start looking at microformats. I think we're going to start looking at ontologies, if you guys have heard of this. The idea that there's such a thing as a temperature, there's such a thing as moisture in the soil. Put those things together, you've got something that can look after your garden. More importantly, somebody in a developing country now has a crop monitor system that they can use to control their irrigation and make sure that the crops are safe and stuff like that. So ontologies, dealing with the data, more big data, but more diverse data.
Yeah, for me, I think the big thing is that you're going to have to learn how to have fun again. Sounds a bit weird, doesn't it? But who here is in an enterprise job at a desk?
Sometimes.
Maybe convert some Java beans to persistence and XML and back again and that sort of thing. The new world we're coming into with all these small devices and then trying to encourage the next generation to join us to be programmers, you actually have to learn to play again, have fun again. I mean, we all got into this because it was fun, right, at high school and at university and things. So I think sort of think back to when you were a child and go back and be curious and be brave and do fun things.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Be curious, just explore, test, have fun, go to conferences and make hands-on on something you have never tested before. Just to play, just having fun. Well.
Yeah, I think having fun is very, very critical. And I think biased all the time. I do lots of DevOps for kids in the US. But I always think in terms of, any technology that you pick up, you become lazy, you learn it, and then you teach it to the kids so that they program things for you. So kind of build your minions around you. Have lots of minions around you who understand your technology. So always kind of think about passing on things to the minions who can then run around you and actually do the job.
We do not condone child slavery. Just to make that clear. But I get your point.
I'm sure Ellie is not around, otherwise he would have kicked my
Who would have thought we got minions to finish off the conference? That's despicable.
I think there should be Ubiquinet-enabled minions.
That's right.
More minions.
Well, thanks, guys. It's been great hearing from you. So, it's that time. It's come to the end so soon, so fast. Damn, I'm tired. I'd like to just point out that you've probably seen this slide a few times, but these were the images that we've been using as in our templates. They're wonderful. We really appreciated being able to use them. And again, I know we drilled the point down. These guys are here to keep your attendee price down. And thanks again. It's been a pleasure having you. And for anyone who came last year, don't forget to mind the geek. But I think the salient point of this whole evening has been the best way to predict the future is to create it, and we look forward to going away and seeing what you create. Thank you. Oh, wait. Has anyone checked the date? I thought I saw a full moon. Did I?